Hi, I'm Daniel Fisher here at Sweetwater Sound, and today I'm showing you the Behringer Vocoder, the VC340. It's basically a vocoder and a human voice machine and a string machine. It does all three, and it's basically modeled after the famous one from the 80s. And there are a few updates. It has MIDI in, out, and through. It also does MIDI over USB. But other than that, it's pretty much the same device. And I gotta say, it's really simple to work. For me, vocoders come into two categories, and that is either the kind that I can get to work and the kind that I can't get to work. And this is one where I just talk into it and it seems to work the way I expect, and I've been very happy with it. But beyond that, the strings. So I'm a child of the 60s and 70s, and was graduating high school when the string machine was a big deal. And I remember when like the #1 song had a string machine in it. I thought that was cool. And this is back in the era of Dreamweaver and things like that. And as a sound goes, it's not the greatest sound in the world, but it's that sound, and I want that sound. And so, you know, this keyboard is definitely not the keyboard that's going to be your only keyboard. This is an accessory trick that has 3 tricks to it, and you'll use it some of the time. Maybe if you're in some sort of 70s funkadelic band, maybe it'd be your only keyboard, but probably not very often. But the strings. So you have upper and lower. You have the ability to change the attack and the tone. And depending on which octave the switch is thrown, it's showing you where the splits are. And that way you can have only strings on the bottom or only strings on the top. But they have that really wonderful late 70s, early 80s kind of sound. So, as you probably heard, I have control over attack time as well as the tone. Here is the fastest attack and the slowest attack, and the tone all the way down and tone all the way up. And as you heard, I have 2 octave settings. And then the last slider is release. Now this controls all 3, the vocoder and the human voice and the strings. And it's trying to act like a reverb. This doesn't have reverb. And you'll see that I'm using a Boss reverb some of the times. You'll always know when it's on because of the red light. It's currently set to Spring to kind of capture that 80s flavor. Like I said, it's not on now. And so what they're doing with release is trying to simulate that. And it's actually a pretty good simulation. So here's without. And as I turn the release time up, and to keep the notes from smearing into each other when you're doing chromatic things, if you release all the keys and restrike, then all of those held notes go away. So it's a technique you can learn, and it can make a really nice ambience, and it's just very 70s and 80s sounding. And so you hear all of those chords kind of blending together in that ensemble, which is just such a big part of those strings. And the volume of the strings can be set via this balance knob under strings, and you can use this volume. You can also use it as an expression slider. Next is the human voice. They're also split. So I have 2 for the lower and 2 for the upper. And the split point depends on which octave you're in. I'm currently in the lower octave. And so if I hit the 8-foot male, if I want, I can add an octave to that. And there's nothing in the upper until I hit this. And then I can add a female. And then I can add all of them. And the magic comes when you turn on the ensemble, and now you have that 70s choir sound. And that blends nicely with the strings. But the reason you're probably buying this, and the reason it's named what it's named, is because of the vocoder. And just a quick capture, a vocoder at its most basic, it's taking the timbral shape of your voice and then superimposing those timbral changes on the sounds that are made in here. So basically it sounds like this thing is talking. You don't hear your voice, you only hear the timbre of your voice modulating the vocoder. And if you want, you can mix in some dry mic as well if you want to sing and have vocoding behind you. So first thing, you get a microphone. I have a Shure Super 55. It's a dynamic mic. That's important. You can't use a condenser mic or any mic that requires phantom voltage because it does not supply phantom power. So you just take that, you plug it right in the back, and if I turn it on lower, then I can have a vocoder on the lower half.
This is a vocoder sound.
And if I play something up top, above the split point, it won't. This is no vocoder going. So then if I hit upper, then I have it up here as well.
This is the vocoder, this is the vocoder, this is the vocoder.
And it also has an ensemble button for vocoder, which gives it that perfect 80s sound. And then I can blend all three.
Just vocoder, now vocoder with human voice. Now vocoder, human voice and strings.
And then they have a slider that lets you put the direct microphone into the signal with any other sounds that you happen to have going. One thing that's really great about that is that you don't need any mixers for all these different things. Everything will come out of the left and right outputs. And so direct mic might be if you're a good singer and you want to sing along with your vocoding in strings. I am not, but I'll do it for you anyway. So here it is without.
1, 2, 1, 2.
And here it is with.
This is vocoding in my voice.
And also to make mixing easier, they give you an external synth input that you can bring in that comes out of the outputs with its own level and overload light. And then to finish out the top panel, on the left, you've got a headphones knob, and that's really important because sometimes when you're vocoding in a complex sound environment, it just really helps to be able to hear yourself clearly. There's an external synth input on the back with a level here and a red LED and green LED to show you levels. And then the last section on the top panel is the vibrato, and that is controlling the vocoder and the human voice and the strings. and you basically get a rate and a depth, and then in the middle there's a delay time before it starts. So if I turn up the depth and the rate, and I could set the delay time so that it comes in after a certain amount of time. Nice touch, especially when you're doing the strings and the ensembles. And then on the left-hand control panel, we have knobs and switches that have to do with pitch and tuning and volume. And the most utilitarian one is the tuning, which is really important when you're dealing with other synthesizers and stuff that may not be perfectly in tune. And then you have your octave switch, which I've already shown you. And you have volume. And then the rest of them, this time and pitch set and pitch shift and the switch here, has to do with, they wanted to give you the ability to have a little scoop on your strings and your sounds. And so they give you a manual method. You switch to manual and you can do a little bit of pitch bending. You can only bend down. And you can set it to auto. Now you get to choose between short and long times. You get to go between that for how long the scoop takes and how low the starting pitch is. So if I go ridiculous and set it to long and start low, it'll have a really slow scoop. Probably wouldn't use that very often except maybe for Warner Brothers. But you can make that much faster. And you can make the starting point closer to the end pitch. When it's all the way up, it doesn't do anything at all. And it just helps get the little dig in. And then there's an off position, which is also external control. If you have a sustain pedal plugged in the back, you can turn that scoop feature on or off. And depending on how long you have it set and how low the pitch is set, it might have a little or a dramatic difference. Well, that was just a really quick look at the Behringer VC340 Vocoder. If you have any questions about this or other Behringer products, please contact your Sweetwater sales engineer. My name is Daniel Fisher. Thank you very much for watching.
Is there anybody out there? Is there anybody out there? Is there anybody